All right, so boom. So now you get yourself, you're reinventing yourself now because again, style has increased
Yeah, they went crazy.
tremendously.
The guys then went crazy, man. Like they had that's when they had Cornelia, like Cornelia and Bushwick and all that. They was going crazy in Bushwick area. All through the style and all that. I'm hearing the guys they going crazy and all that. So I had to jump back online, man. I'm like, nah, these niggas going crazy, man. Brandino, Brandino, he was at his crazy prime at that time. So I was more impressed that my dudes really taking over the shit. But at the same time, I'm looking at this, Flex in Brooklyn situation. But at that time, we still transitioning to network. So it's like your name really had the buzz off the street work. Like it wasn't no, oh, I saw you on a tape or I saw you off this and that, the third. The phone call situation, like, all that's still going on. Like, you ain't none of this going on with technology. So a lot of my stripes come from that. Like a lot of OGs, it come from that. It ain't come from a stage. You feel what I'm saying? So
Right.
that was the the impact that it was for us. But when I saw that shit with the flex in Brooklyn, it was very impressive because a lot of guys at my time, they was crazy with it, but they actually on the stage. So that's what made me question my dudes. Like I couldn't really move around the way I wanted to, but I was like, yo, like, why you niggas ain't up there? Like, so they giving us this like, yo, we gotta have a routine. Yo, we was up there, we was gonna do this. And I was kind of getting frustrated behind that because it's like
Mm.
the talent that we had and so much like impact we had in the styles, like we needed to get that. And it's crazy. I knew kind of like 20, 30 years later this shit would happen. Like they'll run the tapes back and all that. But it was at a time of just me just reinventing myself as well. So I just started to you start seeing me labbing up like certain guys I wasn't even labbing up with. I started to kind of like lab up with them, like just to build myself at the same time, seeing where they techniques and stuff like that was like improving that. So
Right.
it's like, all right, you need help in this. I'm trying to help myself as in me building myself up. So but I still had stronger guys like Blackie and Brandon Book, all of them. They was at their strongest time. But at that time it's crazy. Like they was more moving around. So it's like I had to kind of catch up with them guys now. But bro, you know what I mean? Like, you know how you used to be like that, Nate, you know what I mean? Like, you was there, so it's like you running around. So it's like, I start snatching one of them niggas by one my way. Oh, you think you can get over here? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like once I start getting under them, it's like, nah, these niggas on another level. So it's like, it's just a feed off, a branch off. Like, you
Right.
know what I mean? So it's all about
So
how fast you catch on.
people necessarily that wasn't really around for the genesis of, a lot of the building blocks to the dancehall Bruckup style, the Brooklyn version. That's taking place between Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights, Flatbush, and many of the different other areas flanking Avenue. A lot of more people will pop up because again, Flex in Brooklyn really was inspiring a lot of people based on a lot of people that went to that platform to perform. Some of them already being in the streets moving around. Where were you now? Because again, people from your sides, Ghost and them had tapes where hyperactive will necessarily start to come on your ends. And hyperactive had run-ins with people like Icky on a battle tip and on a student to teacher tip. So where were you now necessarily when these individuals will start to come around? Because in the modern day of now, you yourself will run into one of their major players and have discussion. So realistically, what was it like if you saw them at that time? What was that like?
But see, at that time, like when the hyperactive, like when they started to come around, like they ain't come on our sides. Like we was already running around in Crown Heights. So for example, see how everybody used St. Mark's as a big platform, like, oh, Flex in Brooklyn, that was the block. Prince and us, those are blocks, Prince and those guys in Crown Heights, like we didn't already stomped all through those blocks already. Like I said, Prospect and Nostrand, St. John's and Nostrand, like you had big sets out there. So like you're running across those are all Prince in them side. So it's like we coming deep into their area now. It's like we more in their turf. Even with Saint Mark's and Nostrand was a crazy block parties. Like I said, even Lincoln block parties. Like them shits be crazy. So you'll run across like crazy hitters out there. So it's like, when basically when we started running to hyperactive and all of them, they were just like new adventure people. Like, it's like okay, we saw them on TV, but it's like now we see them, in the street. Like, you know what I'm saying? But it's like everybody really wasn't out in the street. Their feet ain't really get wet like that. So, for example, a guy like me and Blackie or Brandino and other guys, as I always name off, we already ran through them streets. So,
Right.
like maybe like Albert, see, like Albert, Pova, and them, like they upcoming was like how, not to mention with Reg and them. Like, so it's like it was a perfect blend with like an Albert and a Pova and Reg and Nugget how the way they came up as opposed to if you put an Icky or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's just that Icky, like I said later on when we both knowledge, like Icky just put a big impact over there with those guys. But
Right.
for me to roll with Icky is like, I was already with him. Like, we, that's my dog. We danced together. Like, so it's like for me, like not saying like I look at them as little niggas, it's just like I already was outside. So I always felt like they ain't give me the energy to feel like I have to really come for them like if like how Pova and Albert was. You know what I'm saying? Like I already had my name already. So it's
Right.
like I felt like I ain't really had to prove a point with them. You know what I mean? Like one person, but everybody else nah. You know what I mean? Gutter was crazy too. Shout out to Gutter. Gutter was crazy too. Like I said, he bring a lot different to the table.
Yeah,
Gutter was crazy.
he ran into there's footage out there where at the time, he
Yeah,
ran into Blackie.
Gutter crazy.
Yeah, they had their run-ins, that whole faction, like because it seemed
But he,
like at one point, from how it looked like when you hear the stories and you watch footage, it would seem like, it was BSV versus Flex in Brooklyn,
Nah, that's just a narrative for like one or two players. Like it's just like I said, like
especially by the time like Hyperactive in a sense dissolved and they turned into main event where they became this super group. And now it's like the super group is running into BSV per se.
but you got to look at it like, like that's when the BSV veteran names start to like branch out, stick out a little bit. Like I said, like
Mhm.
you had old players, then you got players that was, they was playing in the field, just that, they just, it's like they just get the energy off what they saw the old players play. So that's all. Like they, the old heads or, I guess me and others people. But the thing is, I was in the mix with all that going on. But even with, it's crazy. I was around for like, both spots, like even from the first generation, even, even when this, hyperactive and even with BSV was kicking off. Like, what I'm saying, I
Right.
was there for that first triggered off too, because like it really triggered off from St. John, I mean St. Mark's. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So it's like, um, like I said, like it was a good look, but it was bad because even though hyperactive, they had their joints and we had hitters, but that year we lost like two, three other niggas. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like
Mm.
when that kicked off with the footage that you saw with them dancing on St. Mark's, what I was explaining to you earlier, like, about, Brandon's situation and then, a couple other people. Like, so it's like they adding more people, but we losing people. So it's like, it's a different thing. We had that's when Hood came in though, Jay Hood, shout out to Hood, magical, crazy, wavy. Like, he
With
had
the
his own
hood.
little style. You know what I mean?
Full
Yeah.
fact.
See, yeah, Hood. See, that's another thing with Jay Hood. Like when Hood came in, like, he peeped and he peeped that 90s flow and he been around. So it's like even if they say he wasn't dancing for that long, he just took in and took in, like, yo, I'm gonna jump in here, I'm gonna take it serious. And how fast he jumped up there, he put me in the mind of how we was coming up in the 90s.
Mm.
Like, me, like I said, me and her had that talk. He wanted me to put him under the wing. I said, nah, bro, like you do your own shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? And shit, man. That nigga sat there and he just used to sit there watch. You see the tapes. He's on everything. Like, so you don't see him really getting busy. But at the same time, you do got footage with Hood getting busy. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I really feel like Hood don't get the shine that he you know what I mean, he should. Like, because Hood, he's a sparkle. You feel me? So how the way he came in, he kind of like strengthened BSV. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Oh
Like, yeah,
hell
they,
yeah,
yeah,
because yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah,
they
yeah.
needed, like in the beginning they counted him out, but they don't realize how much they needed that. Like they need him there. Like, and I saw that. I'm like, nah. Once he go into his Dragon Ball Z shit, whatever that nigga, like he got some shit, but a lot. But if you look at a lot of his mechanics, it comes from our old style. All that floor shit and all that, he
Mhm.
get all of that from what he saw when we was coming up on our hunger. So that's what made him a beast. You know what I mean? So like I said, like that's what made it look good, as in that little group what they had. You know what I'm saying? So, I just felt like I just wanted to be like the old, old might just be me. I don't want to be in no group. That ain't what
So,
made me. You
so
feel what I'm
speaking
saying?
speaking of that, even though again you were still your own leader, you would still play a part in how BSV necessary skill wise would necessarily be sharpened because again in the last what is it like 2 3 years you started to release content of your own where you was
Mm,
showcasing necessarily you in the lab with Ghost, you in the lab, Betty, you was helping people season up their skills. So um
yeah.
how was that for you at that time again where necessarily you're part of the genesis of a lot going on the BSV side, Bed-Stuy side, just in general. Because again, as we converse, a lot of people, well, not a lot, certain individuals did their best to keep you in the shadows. And if it wasn't for your receipts, it's like, oh, them receipts did a
A
lot, a
lot of them.
lot, a lot of like it shined a lot of light where it was just kind of like I would hope that the parties or and the individual.
They'll tell you. I don't need to say no names since we're doing fact checks. I don't need to say no names. Let them tell you. I was just being a pointer to the truth. I just wanted what I ain't had when I was young, and I knew I had the opportunity to do that for them. That's what I was doing. Because that's what Aku did for me. That's what Icky did for me. That's what Kasim did for me. Shout out to my brother Mike. That was one of my brush up brothers. Mike did that for me. And Mike was one of the ones, he was everywhere. If it wasn't for Mike, Michael Chambers, Bruck Up Mike, I would have never had met Blackie. It would never have been no BSV if it wasn't for Mike. I'm that humble.
Or and the individuals within the parties would necessarily find the time to necessarily do right by you and start even putting out some of the content that they got just so all the pieces could come together.
Um, like they say, they never show the face of the statue, as in, I feel like I ain't even gonna say they, like I had so much motion going on, like it's one thing, like people be trying to, like, they want this, I want that, like I need this, like with me, like it was like a sports car, like I drove it, didn't care too much about it no more, and I just like left the car there. Like everybody else is like, I want to be number one, I want to have that stripe and all that. It's like I didn't did that already. I left that shit in the 90s.
Hmm.
So it's like my legendaries popping in the 90s. That's when it was jumping. Like anything past 2000 is like is downhill for me. Cause at that time it was so much hunger, it was so much creativity. So even if they say Flex in Brooklyn was creativity, like it was dope. But the way, like you said early on, when they say, oh, Bruck Up, he did this in the one on pop. Like after everybody found out who they were and took off, like shit, we wasn't even talking about a damn Bruck Up. Like we just, like I said, we carried the name. Like everybody had their own identity. Like what you say, Ski like RoboCop, this dude look like this guy look like, you know what I mean? Everybody had their own identity. So my thing is that, like, we just took it, snatched it, and just cooked it up, and the generations that came behind, even though a lot of people wouldn't take it as a second generation, but it will always be that, because even the people that you talk about, they inspired you. That means you was like a little dog. You watched them, just like how we got our impact. So it's like you can't call yourself or this and then the third to be the start of anything. So
Right.
what I'm trying to say is that, right. We're gonna put that in the dirt. What my man 50 say? Put that
Yo,
in the comment. Yo, put
that
that in
was
the
so
comment section.
settling. That was
Now
so
put that in the
settling.
comment section. Nah, put that in the
Like
comment section.
I really listened to what you just said. I said, "Oh
Yeah,
nah."
put that in the comment section. But
Like the
what I'm
way you
saying is
just
that
landed that plane and then jumped in the car and just said skirt and parked. I said, "Oh, my heart just dropped."
nah, we're gonna keep it serious, like for real though. Like it's real talk. So even it so, but this what
Yo,
I'm
big
saying.
ups to
Even
everybody, man. Big ups to everybody. This is for
yeah,
the
shout
sake
out to
of
everybody.
truth coming
Shout out to
together.
everybody. But like I said though, man, a lot of people, man, like dude, you can have shine for 30 seconds and people can recognize that. You don't have to sit there and clown and drag yourself because it always it always turn around and bite people all the time. So even though if my narrative to whatever, it always connect the dots when it's dealing with me with a situation dealing with,
Hmm.
how things started and how it just took off. Like, like a lot of people, it's sad, but it's if you have to push that to make yourself something, it is what it is. But like I said, around like I said, 2002, 2000, like I said, when I saw Hyperactive and I saw those guys, them guys was crazy. Brian mainly was one of the big people that really stuck out.
Hmm.
Ice Cream too. What's his name? Ice Cream, right?
Yeah, that's
Sure.
actually
Yeah,
green.
yeah, them too. Them two. Similarity, but like I said, because it's crazy because I'm just coming back. Like I said, I just came home, so it's like even from the '90s, it was always a get low style. So it's like they just made it look sharp and more clean. But it's just like that's what made draw me more attention with me with Brian. Like I'm like, nah, I like the way they bust, and on top of that, like they get lows and they get on their clean shit with it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what draw attention for me to really people in it. But everybody else in the group, it was like it was like cool. That's what's up. It was cute. Like, dudes had they shit on and all that, even down to the fits. It's like, okay, we did that already in the 90s. Like, you know what I'm saying? No judge to them and I respect them. Everything is, everybody's still doing their thing. Everybody, but like a lot of our style that a lot of people was put on the stage, like it was like, all right, we did this already. Like, you know what I'm saying? Not
Right.
everybody was fortunate, but this is what we did. We had to get out there, grind, and all that other stuff. But by them taking me out the shadows as in on my behalf, like they knew, like I said, I had too much motion. Like I had a job. I was taking care of myself at a young age. I had my own spot. So it's like I wasn't in the house every day sweating with big shirts and, you know, just I wasn't, that wasn't for me. I always had a, look a certain way. I always like to have money in my pocket. Oh, so like I said, like even with the dancing, I had to tell my guys, like, you see these guys, even on Flex in Brooklyn. I'm like, you see these guys, they dressed up, they fly. When you go out, your crew step out, people acknowledge that. They don't
Straight
want you
up.
dancing smelling like onions and big ass t-shirts and big jeans. Like, you gotta,
People's
carry
already
yourself a
judging
certain
you
way.
before you open your mouth. Like,
Exactly. But yeah, man, that's what's going on, bro.
so, today, from the time COVID started all the way till now, like, what is your thoughts on the game now? Because again, it was
Oh,
like, granted, you were available to who you was cool with, who you are cool with, etc. It's just that by the time COVID kicked up and now there's a lot of media spaces, especially mines when I created it was like, I made a home for all the dancers to come talk because it was just like at that time I myself was just tired of different people lying. And
right,
my job, and it's always been my job. I say, yo, listen, I'm here to let the truth shine and while uprooting the lies because I need things
right.
to come together the right way so the next set of generations could get it the right way. So, what is your mindset on the game now when you see
It's been rigged like the NFL, man.
it?
The whole structure. Like And that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of OGs and stuff like that, like guys like myself and all that, like we don't got time to be sitting there like who got the crown or who, who was the best and all that. Like, but I see a lot of like, I want to attach myself to this person, that person, and stuff like that. So, it just, the game messed up. Like my main thing is the heavy hitters don't know about you. It's like you just non-existent in this dance world. Like, you know what I mean? And it's not even that. It's just that you can never put yourself ahead of somebody else. You know what I mean? So it don't matter how much you try to be the big head. It's like it's gonna always make you look like the little fish at the end. You know what I'm saying? And it makes you look crazy. So but when I came home though, bro, like that's when I ran into, like I said, the guys BSV and the group and all that. They started to branch. That's how I started to meet Wayne and Liquid and Kool-Aid and all of them. That's around like oh 03, 04 ish.
Mm,
Yeah. Matter of no, 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 no. Like 2003. I'm lying. Like 2003, 2002, 2003. So all this is happening at the same time because the temple started to have parties up in that motherfucker like a week in the
mm,
temple too. That's when we used to have them crazy days off in the middle of the school. You remember like back in the day, you used to have they used to be out of school from Thursday to Sunday, like, or we used to have them crazy days off of school, and the temple used to have a lot of events and stuff like that. So
mm,
yeah, like I used to, the art was eating that up, going crazy. The temple, I mean, not the temple, the Elks was like, that was always a specialty spot, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, on those sides, the temple was like the beehive at one time,
mm.
you know. So
Where
that's
were
how
you
we
when BSV would start to really, in a sense, take over the game and have a bigger stain on the dance floor in regards to like when they started to produce Loud, they started to produce Slaughterhouse. Like BSV necessarily had a great run on the game up until you know, internal wars would kick off.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's when I ran into Bugs. Shout out to Bugs. A lot of that, like, yeah, you're right. That's what I'm saying. BSV definitely was buzzing all the way around because like it was just
Yeah,
they
because
was
BSV
niggas was at their
definitely
peak
had the
because
game in the chokehold at one point.
you going to the temple from the Elks to the temple from the Elks, like you hit all four corners. Like that's what I'm saying. People don't know how much the temple was a big impact to the dance world too. Like, and they used to have a lot of events in there too. Besides,
Mhm.
like
I
you
was just
saying
talking
BCAT,
about
they
that
used to
with a
have
few dances not too long
yeah.
ago.
So BCAT, that's how all those guys over there, Bushwick and all that. And like I said, when I came home, Black and all of them already had Cornelia and all that on Smash. And Brandino and them, they had all that on Bushwick on Smash.
Mm,
So when I came home, that's when, like I said, I started patching with the temple. So when they started to come down, because they tearing this all up in the summertime, you know what I'm saying? So the fall come in, the temple started to have the temple parties, so it locked in like that, and that's how it rolled out. So we don't have no parties there. Like I said, it'd be at the fitness center or anything back on, Notion Ave side. So, but that's how that impact came. And then that's when Fatboy Crib became a slaughterhouse. Like before the slaughterhouse, everybody said Fatboy Crib.
right.
So Fatboy Crib been popping before, it really got popping. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's a
So it
whole
just,
fact.
yeah. But
Fat
once
Boy Crib
Bushwick,
definitely had some of the illest sessions I ever been to.
right. Once Bushwick got in the mix, Blackie started to bring the DJ sound in. So it's like I ain't gonna front. The dance group was like we they had a big head start. Like we had a DJ, a nice dope group. Like you had a good layout. Like I said, Albert, he was like MySpace and all that going on. So internet, that's when that was kicking up. So a lot of those things, like that made the
When
impact.
you look at um the empire you helped build, like what are your thoughts on it today when you see what it's come to?
I love to see the people that still dancing. I still smell. Long when people dance, it just smile for me. It made me look
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I inspired a lot of people. Like I don't, with me, I don't need, yeah, you glorify for me, glorify, I'm good. Like, if you still dancing and I knew you came under my umbrella, I'm hype. Like, you know what I'm saying? It gonna always make me feel good, even when people be at their top. Like, even people that was inspired from the people that learned from me, they get inspired from them. That make me look good. So if somebody said they was inspired through you and they got nice through you and they dancing, I feel good because they went to you to learn how to dance, but I'm the one that taught you, so you inspired somebody else. So I'm not, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, it's how the way you carry and how the way you feel about things. That's all. You
Right.
know, a lot of people want to be, face of it. You can't be face of something that you ain't create. You know what I'm saying? So, so when you say, oh, they don't put you involved and stuff like that, that's pretty much fine. But other people, they always mention me. So even like I said, if they try to fade me, it doesn't matter to me because in your mind, you already know that you basically learned from me, or you was inspired off what I was doing to make you to what you are now.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. So again, in the last what I think this was like 2 years, last 2 years, you necessarily gave everybody a sneak peek, a little, little
Mhm.
when you uploaded a few clips, not even just like past footage where you showcase it to people like how again how much of a role you played with BSV and just your dance history in general. You literally gave us updated quality where it was like your name got a new life to it, added had new life added to it. Like, do
Right.
you see yourself continuing that in the capacity that you want to do it?
I think I could though, because like I feel like
Because a lot of your peers is finding their way to come back out in the capacity that they want to do it. So I know
right.
for sure when you had put your joint up, it was like, I think for a lot of us, including myself, it was just like, oh, he got the mechanics. Like he
I
got the
mean,
mechanics, boy. He got the mechanics.
like I said, like, with that, it just it's like believing in yourself, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if I could step in the paint to do that, it's like imagine if I really take it serious, like for like 4 to 6 months or something like that. Like a lot of people was just like they hit me up now, like, yo, boy, you should get out there. You're gonna get some hating or certain people, but the ones that hate, they don't know you. But if they do, in reality, they know my shit hot. But I don't be making it seem like it's hot because like with me, I always made it simple when I bust. Like, so I feel like if they come back outside, like, that ain't gonna do nothing to motivate me to, push myself more. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, I push myself to a certain degree to it, and then it's like when I feel like, it's turn off time for me, it's just turn off time for me. You know what I'm
Do you
saying? But
do
if
you
I
see
really need to get
yourself
in,
putting in the 4 to 6 months just to for the sake of recreation and just like, yo, I mean, again, as men, we have to keep the body exercised and in shape. So do you see yourself necessarily doing the 4 to 6 months with your gift and
I
just
think
saying, yo, hey, yo, check this out. I just want to show y'all if I wanted to do this on a major level, like it can get spicy, like it can get spooky.
I think somebody gotta keep like calling me trash or like you know what I mean, like you garbage or like you gotta like make me get mad like to the point like and that's the thing like it won't even get me mad because I know in reality it don't have to be like crazy but like nah like he got potential like that's all what really matter with me like when you like not to say like when you was that nice like it don't take that much like a person to take 10, 15 years to have their whole style to what it is.
Mhm.
Like what I see what people doing, it's like, yo, I could do that in 4 months and better. Like you already know. Like all I need, what I might just eat different, ride the bike, yeah, exercise, like stuff like that. Things what they not doing. See, when your body is when you wake up, smoke a blunt, dance, go to sleep, smoke a blunt, stuff like that, it's not good for the body. And on top of that, like you still like you already have your body already like in a routine to do that. Like with
Right.
me, like after I do this, I might have to pick up physics stuff and stuff like that, rocks, or I'm doing hard work labor. I ain't sitting in my bed all day and all that. So my back, things like that, those things. So it's like, you got to start to transition your body back into that, like, so I feel like, nah, man, I could just definitely step back outside. It's like, but you just got to get me mad or something, like, but I feel like I would never let nobody get me to that point. Just
Mm.
motivation.
Granted, even though a lot of people know you as Mike, how did you get your moniker in regards to your dance name?
My moniker.
Yeah, pretty much your tag name, your dance name.
Uh, like I said, like,
Because for those that know you, we call you Brooklyn Dawn, and then
mm,
there's the Mez. There's
oh, oh,
what name is it stuck to the people that would know you best?
Brooklyn Dawn.
Brooklyn Dawn.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, they just know me from Mike, man. They just know me from Mike. Or Mike from Putnam or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Putnam Ave is like, I wear the Putnam Ave on my sleeve, like, you know what I'm saying? Blood, sweat, and tears. Like, yeah, like even with the dancing era, like, who that Mike from Putnam? Like, it wasn't no crew, none of that. Like, it was from your block. So don't fuck with Mike from Putnam, or don't mess with such and such from over there. Like, it was you was labeled by your block.
Okay.
It don't matter what it is, street, fight, or dancing, or whatever your talent is. Like, people knew you from that. So, that's where a lot of my stripes come from.
Copy.
Like I said, I did it like Nike, man. Like at that time, like I was motivated, like, I was just motivated to do what I do. Like I said, when we started to get around, like Brian, like I said, Brian was one of the dudes that really came around BSV before the Reggies and all that really started to get heavy.
Okay.
Brian, yeah, he came as one man army, man. Like, shout out to Brian. I'm gonna always talk about that story, which I tell you 50 million times. Like,
Yo, tell the world about that Brian story real quick. Brian who glide about the
oh,
battle.
listen, boss. They don't want no problems with the. See, that's another thing too, man. Like a lot of in my group and in that little BSV thing or whatever, a lot of dudes is kind of like like with the Brian situation, man. Like, and that's my guy. But I respect. Yo, I'm coming home from jail. I did 2.5 years. The atmosphere was different. Like I was already on him for like the last 2 years. Like that's my guy. And I saw the potential, Reggie, Nugget, all of them. And I'm talking to my guys Pova and Albert and all of them. So like I'm at this parties, I'm jumping back in the scenery, and I'm seeing like they really had that animosity who's trying to take that crown. Cause like I said, BSV and all that, they had the buzz, but you gotta understand, we the one that made the buzz for them to grow, for them to do what they did. You know what I'm saying? So you can't fade us out. But when we're gonna get to that shit with Brian, like he was just a different wave, man. Like, that kind of intimidated Albert. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause you gotta understand, like, that's my guy. Like he got his little spins and his little, he do his ghost walk. That's what he known for. But you gotta respect talent from talent. When Brian came in, he came in beastie. The Temple, like, and Brian, he was coming for BSV by himself. Real talk. You see this nigga, he coming iceberg, Mosquito down, scheming looking nigga with fronts and bottoms. I'm like, what the fuck is? I'm like, oh, that's that dude right there. Like, yeah, it was like one of those. And I was telling Blackie and all of them, like, yo, boss, like, them niggas on your ass. But one thing about that though, they respected Blackie. Cause when Blackie, he come from my cloth. He come from that 90s cloth. When we come in, we don't play. We skin them and go. Like, we don't got time to make all that 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds. That's what I'm saying. Back then, like, niggas wasn't doing that 5, 6 round shit. Nigga, you coming in there to put niggas in the crib for 2 weeks, a month. Don't even dance no more. Yo, this what I'm saying. It's so many dancers that even before, like, even in my era, it was other dancers that ain't even getting their flowers. And they was nasty out here. George, Milton. You know what I'm saying?
His whole energy changed. Like, but that's what I said. It's like, again, for the people who necessarily, who that was done around, I mean, they get it. Other than that, I mean, again, there's stories out there of people necessarily not backing down from that energy. No, and that's respect. Because they too were warlords. Me and Marty went at it back in the days, and we got cool after that. We have our times in the Elks. Nigga, I can tell you about that battle. That nigga, I was talking, we was in the club being all hype and talking with each other. This nigga glided up behind me and, like, with the head away like this. Like, right? And then, wow. And then started gliding off. I'm like, and niggas told me, yo, this nigga. And niggas gave it up that night. I could say that I did whatever I did, but niggas could say he did whatever he did. But the important thing about it is that I'm not gonna sit here and be like, yeah, da 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 da. You know what? If there ain't no footage of it, I ain't gonna talk shit.
Many times, like, and he from Canarsie, so a dude coming in the temple like that, that's that was gonna be nasty that night. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was gonna be nasty how he came in there. I'm like, who the fuck? Or that's that black. I'm like, oh, that's that nigga. I'm like, oh, that's the nigga from Flex. La, 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 la. You know what I'm saying? For the BCat. This, like I said, I wasn't even saying Flex. I'm like, that's boy from BCat. And like I said, I'm like, nah. I already knew he was coming to do damage, son. Real talk. He came in there by himself. Yeah. He had the little front, the gold shit in his mouth and shit. Looking at that nigga, I'm like, looking at Ghost. Never mind you, like I said, they dancing all night and all that. I always told him, man, I'm like, it's a time and a place to dance and to be humble, chill. Like, you don't dance off everything. But yeah, when Brian came up in there, man, it was gonna get ugly that night, man. So, I just had to play Captain Saver, nigga, Captain Saver, shit like that, shit was gonna get real messy in there. So
what are some of the best battles outside of yourself that you've seen?
Man. Wow. Bro, you want to talk like that? Darrell Enrique. Mm-hmm. Darrell Enrique. Gordon Enrique. Myself and Jeff. Dude named Jeff from Clifton. Shout out to my son. No, he's not from Clifton. My son Jeff from Green and Nostrand. You know what I'm saying? Shit. My son Butter, this dude named Butter, that was Jeff Man. Matter of fact, they was cousins. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I had to. My son Keywan, these guys. I'm talking about these guys is crazy. Like, George and Milton.
You gotta find him, son.
George and Milton. Now that's a 90s. See, these are highlights, man. You had to be there for that. George and Milton, matter of fact, and at the high. Crazy battle. Now that's what I'm saying. That's raw. Like this, when no judge, but the aptitude that, like I said, is ballerina, my nigga. Like it was war. Son, I'm telling you, it was war. After 99, it was just like, it's cool. Like it's cool. No disrespect that was going on over there, but yeah, man. Within that 3-year radius right there, like you had to have your shit together. Like, I don't know. Like it was real war. Shit. I saw Icky get Bucky. Like I said, like even with the we're gonna spin a little bit back on that. Even on the start kick with the Darrell and the Icky shit, that battle ain't even really going like that neither. I don't know why, but that ain't even going like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, Tyson jumped in there. I had to, park him a little bit. To shout out to Tyson. I love you to death. That's my dog. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, at that time it was it was supposed to be a 2-man battle, but with the Icky Darrell and Ski situation. But everybody they couldn't get it together. It wasn't them, it was the DJs that we was flowing around. It just couldn't stick the way it was. But if that would have happened, I ain't gonna front. If that would have happened, that shit would have been blood on the floor. I don't know, son. Like that would have been crazy. Like
who's
I don't know.
Whether you want to include, if you was a coach, no matter of fact, who's your Mount Rushmore?
So now I ain't even gonna front my nigga. Like, I'm an all-around house, man. Like, I can't pick and choose a side. Cause why? Because everybody got, cause like when you think a nigga got a 2-2, nigga might pull out that big ass 4 pound on you. Like that's like, I might say, yo, I'll pick, for example, I might say, yo, I'll pick Ski. But I roll with Icky, but I know Icky got some shit too, but you don't know what he got on his sleeve. Like this is how this game be rolling. Like when you roll in the game back then, it's like like nigga ain't gonna show his hand. Nigga sit there. He could see that's how nice niggas was. Nigga bust some shit. But when a nigga started getting in their pause no diddy, when a nigga started getting in the nigga ass, a nigga started to come out with some like you like, yo, I ain't know he had him. That's when they come to I ain't know you had it in. Nigga, shut the fuck up. You knew he had it in him. Like real talk. What's the story you told me when you said you saw when they say I'm not bringing them up like that, but when they said the shit about when they said he saw Icky Brian, I guess you told me the little story when you said he saw Icky back and all that over the joint.
Oh yeah,
This is what I'm
well
saying.
the story that
Right.
Brian told me, big ups to Brian, where he
Yeah,
was on
big
the
up to
roof
Brian.
he was
Yeah.
on the roof,
Right.
and when he looked down and it was like, he saw Icky doing the street sweeper.
Right.
And the part of the street sweeper that he was capturing was the back wave part. And he
Right.
said to see his wave like damn near like a flag. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was like,
Mm-hmm.
yo, son, he's like, just imagine standing at the top of the roof and you looking down on your man and his whole back just
Mm-hmm.
like clean, clean.
Yeah.
Like that thing
That's
just
how yeah. That's how, you
and
know what
you
I'm
saw
saying?
what that would trickle down to, shout outs to
Yeah.
Red, shout outs to everybody who picked it up. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, it was
So,
just like, from a person like Brian, who's advanced as he is, he always gave Icky his flowers because he was just like, yo, for the stuff that he saw coming up with his own eyes, it was just like,
mm-hmm.
whoa. And even to
Mm-hmm.
me, it was like, um, even when he picked it up, I don't know in a sense because I wasn't there. I don't know the different variations, quote unquote, of the street sweeper. I just know
Right.
that when I see Brian do it on a like not even just hunched over, standing up. I'm like, bro,
Right. Yeah,
because
because it's a
his
yeah,
thing is he got feats involved. He got all types of nah. That's why I
right.
said
See,
like
that's
in
what
my
I'm saying.
mind, I
Yeah.
sit there, I'd be like, yo, for everything. That's why I always big y'all up because I'm like, all right, if this person took it here, then what did it originally look like?
Right. But see, that's why I was telling you when it came back to like with that, everybody working on those mechanics, that's what made me start to work on my feet mechanics.
Mm.
So that's when it's like, all right, everybody